Okay, now that we have basics of our game completed, we have these pages completed. Now we need to add a way of displaying some information on our screen. So we will dive a little bit deeper into UI in Unreal Engine, and we will create more advanced widget blueprints so that we can display, for example, objectives or what's actually happening in the game. So for example, when we interact with the door and they're closed, the text will appear saying that doors are closed. So let's go back to contents, main, and here we have our UI folder where we have images and widgets. If you open up this widget main UI, um, we can see that we have this default cursor, interaction cursor, and stamina bar. This is something we've set up before. So when I start running, you can see this stamina bar is appearing on the bottom right here, which is invisible by default. It only appears when we are sprinting. That's what we programmed while covering the sprinting mechanic. But now we need to add more into this blueprint because we need some info text. We also need some objectives. So let's take care of this. First of all, I will create this info text that will be displayed whenever we do any interaction and we just want to tell the player something like the doors are locked or something like that. So let's search for size box and let's grab the size box and move it on our widget blueprint, on our canvas panel. So the first thing that we want to change is I want this text to be displayed somewhere around here in the middle of our screen, but a little bit lower than our crosshair. So we will anchor this. We could anchor this, for example, here, but I want to anchor this so it'll take the entire width of our screen. Or we can anchor it to the center, still taking the entire width of our screen. So now that we are taking the entire width of our screen, we can just change the offset left to 0 and same with offset right, set it to 0. Now you can see this takes the entire space that we want. So as for the position Y, I think something around 400 will be okay. Here we will display our text. And I think this looks great. So now we can actually add this text. So let's search for text and grab it and move it to the size box that we've just created. Before I forget, let's make this a variable and let's name this info text. Okay, so first of all, I want this to be centered. So this text will display on the center. And as for testing, we can just type text or something in the middle here. And later we will override this with whatever we want. But now we just want to create the basics of this info text. So the only thing I want to change is go to font and change this from Roboto bold to Roboto light. It just looks a little bit nicer in my opinion, but that's just a personal preference. You can leave it as it was before. And we can see how this text actually looks once we play the game. And I think this place is okay for our little hints, like the doors are locked and stuff like that. I think this looks really nice. But what do we want to do with this text? What's going to happen with this? We will create a animation that so this text will slowly appear. It will look really nice, and we will also create a function to override this text right here with anything while calling the function. So the first thing I want to do is search for opacity, because now I want to set the opacity to 0. So it's not visible by default. We don't want this to be visible by default. And we will create a simple animation that is something similar to our sprinting stamina bar. So let's just click animation here. Let's create new animation, and it can be called text fade out. So when we interact with our door, for example, I want this text to just switch the visibility, just set the visibility to 1, and then after like 3 seconds, we will just fade it out so it will look nicer. So let's click on this text fade out. Let's click on add info text. This is the text that we've just selected here, and we will track render opacity. Okay, so on the beginning it'll be 0, so that's okay. As you can see, this keyframe was automatically created here. And now I want to go, let's say, 1 second, and I want to add another keyframe. So we need to make sure that the first keyframe is set to 1. And now this text will slowly fade out, and this will look really nice once we implement this into actual gameplay. So let's compile this, save, and let's exit the animation. Just click anywhere in the blank space. So now let's write this little function for this text so that we can use it later inside our BP player. So let's just go to graph where we are setting this stamina. This is the function, but let's leave this function and go to the actual event graph. So here we will create a custom event, which will be named display text. So what we can do here is really simple. Remember, we've set this info text to a variable, which is called info text. So now we can see this variable right here. We can grab it and we can just set text, just like that. So as the text input, we can just get it from this event right here. So that when we call this event, we can type whatever we want to display in this info text. After setting the text, we can make sure that this animation, this fade out animation, is not playing. So we can just simply stop animation. So when the fade out is playing, but we want to display new text, this animation will just stop, and then we will just set its render opacity back to 1, so it's fully visible. And after showing this, we want to add a delay of something around 3 seconds. And finally, we can grab this text fade out animation and we can just play animation. So after 3 seconds, it will slowly disappear. Okay, so now to test things out, we can go to BP player and just quickly go to event graph where we can use one key, um, oh, one key, debug key 1. So when we press 1, this will happen. So we can just get our main UI reference and we can call this display text event from here. Display text. And now you can see we have this input. So we can type whatever we want. So we can type test, for example, and we will see if this works. So let's just click play. And now when I press 1 on my keyboard, this text will appear. It will wait 3 seconds and then it will slowly disappear. And that's exactly what I was looking for. This looks great in my opinion, and this will be displayed whenever we want to give our player a little hint, like doors are locked or do something. So that will be pretty useful later.